Hey everybody, I wanted to talk to you about the Medela Pump and Style. I get a lot of questions about this pump because it's really quite a common pump, and if you follow me on social media for a while, you know that it's really not my favorite, so I'm going to talk about why. So this pump is the original Pump and Style. It came in a bag because this pump is actually open. If you pull this box out, if you pull the faceplate off and everything out, the pump is actually open in the back. So this was the original Pump and Style, and it had tubing that you would plug into the front. And then on this pump, the original pump, it was considered an open system, meaning the tubing would then go into the back of your flange. And this old school system had this little white membrane with the yellow piece, and it was an open system because if you had your milk overflow this, it would go right into the tube and could get sucked into your pump. Now, like all Medela products, the flanges would pop off, so they were compatible with other sizes. You could change this for my favorite, the white duckbills, so you could replace them. But this was the original Pump and Style, and it was considered an open system because your milk could get into the pump. And the back of the pump is actually open. You can see all the pieces and parts in it, which is why it came in the bag. And I had actually seen some patients where they used it in damp conditions, depending on where they were living, and they actually grew mold in the back of that motor. So Medela in 2021, so not that long ago, took that old Pump and Style and they turned it into this closed system, which is what you can now get today. So people who had the original yellow box Pump and Style, many people found that it was a great pump, and I actually really liked that pump. It had good motor drive to it. You could pump on one side or both sides, and it had pretty decent drive to it. For whatever reason, when they updated this pump, they then turned it into a closed system, meaning this was the new setup. So instead of having the duckbill membrane, they changed it to this big membrane, which had been on their Freestyle pump. The Freestyle actually used this pre-2021, and it was a closed system, meaning the breast milk could never pass this diaphragm to get sucked into the pump. So Medela updated it to the Pump and Style with Max Flow. For a while it was called the Pump and Style Advanced, and then in 2022 they changed it to the Pump and Style with Max Flow. It became a closed system where again you had this tubing that would plug in and then plug into the pump, and you could pump either one breast if you closed it off. So this tube you could close here and you could pump on just one side, or you can open it and pump it on both sides. Now, a lot of lactation consultants who've been in this for a really long time will tell you we see less results with this Pump and Style with Max Flow. People who had babies pre-2021 and had the yellow box and then got this as the updated pump with babies born in 2021, 2022, most people noticed that they pumped less milk on this pump. So I don't know if it was a factor of changing the motor to this pump or changing the flange and the way that this membrane works, but for whatever reason, most of us just find this does not have the motor drive that it used to, except for when you are pumping only one side at a time. So with any pumps like this, the motor basically will pump and it does suction to both sides at the same time. So the motor is splitting its vacuum between both of your breasts. So people have found that if they close the system and pump on only one breast at a time, that it can give them more oomph, more motor, because you actually are getting more suction power when you pump on only one side, and then it could do an equivalent job or almost equivalent to the yellow box original Pump and Style. So that would be your hack if you're feeling like I'm not getting as much out of this, I feel like it's not moving my milk efficiently. You could trial just pumping one breast at a time to see if that increased vacuum helps you move more milk. Okay, so that was one of the major changes that happened with this pump and why a lot of us really don't like it. They literally changed the model. They went from an open system to a closed system and used a totally different membrane system for generating that vacuum in the pump. Now, with this pump, to educate you on this particular model that's now available, when you turn this pump on, like all Medela products, it's going to start in your really quick stimulation mode. That is the letdown mode, some will call it. Some call it the stimulation mode. It's the much quicker cycle to help you trigger your letdown to release your milk to the pump. Medela products will then automatically change over to the expression mode a few minutes in, and that's the longer, slower cycle. One of the other reasons that I don't like the Medela Pump style is that you only have one choice for that cycle speed. It is preset for you by the pump. So pumps like the Spectra, the Limerick, the Luna, they have the possibility where you can change how fast or how slow the pump cycles, as well as how strong it sucks. So the Medela, your stimulation mode is a preset speed, and then your expression mode to actually remove your milk is also a preset speed. Well, you can increase or decrease how strong it sucks. So with this pump, if you're in a 15 to 20 minute pump, this little drop button here at the top will move you back and forth between the stimulation and the expression modes. So if you hit that button at any point in time, it will move to the other cycle. So if you do have this pump, I do recommend alternate those settings several times during your pump session. Normally, you're going to use the quick stimulation mode for 1 to 2 minutes until you start to see your milk flow, and then you'll hit that button and go into your expression mode for 4 to 6 minutes, however your body responds, until you move that milk. And when you start to see your milk flow slow, you hit that drop button again to get it to go back into the stimulation mode. So by alternating back and forth between those modes and changing your section, you can trigger your body to make and empty more milk. Now, while we're talking about Medela products, I do want to talk about a couple other things that are really cool hacks, just so you're aware of them while we're talking about Medela. So again, that pump-in style with max flow is going to have these new flange setups. Your Medela products are compatible with narrow neck bottle systems like the Dr. Brown's. So if you're pumping on a Medela pump and using a narrow neck Medela bottle, you can pump directly into your Medela bottles, which will save you time in washing and cleaning. Another thing to be aware of, if you have gone to the hospital for your baby and used the hospital Symphony, that pump is going to usually come with a setup like this that goes into your Symphony pump. This then converts into the Medela hand pump. So you can take the top piece and you can actually use those Symphony kits to then have a hand pump. So Medela does have some really cool ways to convert their pumps into different really cool setups. Now, another old school Medela product, if you had the original pump-in style that had this setup where the pump-in style tubing went into the back, this also turns into a hand pump. So this Medela setup with the original bottle, and again, I like duckbills, white duckbills on there. They have a piston pump. Medela makes a piston pump that screws into the back of the OG original pump-in style flanges, and you can convert the pump-in style flange parts into a piston hand pump. So Medela has two different hand pumps. They make the Medela Harmony, which has this setup, okay, so you can hand pump that way. And then they also have the piston pump. So if you have no electricity, if you're only pumping one side at a time, if you only need to move a little bit of milk for a date night, if you're slightly engorged, if you forget a piece, I like to keep these at work or in a diaper bag, you can convert your Medela parts that you're using on your other pumps into hand pumps. So there's your little tutorial and your lesson on why the new pumping style is not my favorite. For whatever reason, again, they changed the motor and they changed the membranes that generate that suction. If you have this pump, what I will say, this can be a great pump for some. If you're like, oh my gosh, I have that pump and she doesn't like it. If it's working for you, ignore everything that I've told you. There is an individuality with how we all respond to our pumps. If you have this pump and love it, if you have this pump and you feel like it does a decent job moving your milk, yay! Keep using the pump. Don't get discouraged. For many people, this can do really well if you are occasionally pumping, if you're trying to create a stash, if you only pump on one side in the middle of the night, if you occasionally go to work, you work once or twice a week. This pump can do really well for many people. A lot of people find, though, that this is not the best pump if they are exclusively pumping or if they are full-time back at work and needing to use this 2, 3, or 4 times on a shift while they're gone. So if you're using this pump and you feel like it's working great for you, you feel like it's moving your milk well, that it's not leaving milk behind, and that it's continuing to empty you efficiently, which then maintains your milk supply, keep using this pump. Don't get discouraged with it. If you feel like every time you pump, there's milk being left behind, it doesn't efficiently empty you, and your supply is gradually dropping with time, most likely it's the pump and or the pump with the wrong size flange. So with any pump, make sure you have the right size flange. But if you do feel like this is not efficiently moving your milk when you do go to pump, don't blame yourself. It very well may be the pump. Okay, now you know.